This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com. Welcome to Grilled.
I want to eat under roast whenever I want to eat under roast, not when you want me to eat it.
I just remember Brad's smell of his beard. You just had a biggest, fluffiest beard, and I was like, God, he smells so good. I don't know why, it's weird. Sometimes you put smell or something to it, and I just remember that. Well, it's a bit bizarre.
Why are you in your chef's white, Anna? Are you working?
I'm cooking burgers.
Oh, burgers! I hope they're not McDonald's.
And I just lash it all over the hot toast as it melts and quickly munch it up, crunchy, crunchy, munchy.
Dying to get like a piece of your culinary penis in or around their mouth.
Welcome to Grilled, a podcast by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen. And this is the third episode with my co-host Stephen Edwards from Etch in Brighton and also former Masterchef Professionals winner. Masterchef is back on our screen, so all of Stephen's guests are previous winners, so a must listen for any Masterchef fans, I think. Stephen, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm down in the restaurant today, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that MasterChef's back on the screen. So I get on my Facebook notifications.
Right.
All those years ago, like I think, like a cheesy grin on my face, walking around the corner. The ever contestants. It just comes around so quick, I think, every year, but in a good way.
Yeah, bring back all those memories. Yeah. Do you want to introduce us to our guests today and why you wanted to have them on the podcast?
Absolutely. So my guest today is Steve Groves, the 2009 MasterChef, the Professionals winner, and he's the executive chef at Glyndebourne. I've known Steve, I've met Steve a number of times. I've had him down to the restaurant to do guest chef evenings, and to be honest, he was like one of the chefs that I really remembered being on the show. I won it in 2013. Steve won it a few years before me, so he set the standard as far as I was concerned. Since the show, he's gone on to great things.
Excellent. Steve Groves, welcome to Grilled.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you guys.
A nice intro for you.
Yeah, nice. Steve's always speaks very highly of myself, which obviously really appreciated. A great time cooking down at Etch recently, just before they closed for their big refurb. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Okay, so my first question was going to be how you know each other, but you've answered that for me. So let's go in with the questions on the Wheel of Truth. I probably should just pick them, shouldn't I? Oh, who was the last person that you stalked on social media?
The last person I stalked on social media?
Stalk's a good word, isn't it?
Yeah, the strong word, actually, I think. God, I really don't know, actually. I'll just
secret look at their feed.
So I'm always looking at everyone's food. Anyone that comes up, I'm always kind of stealing ideas off of social media. I think it's a great source of inspiration. Is that fair to say there's a source of inspiration, or is it just literally stealing ideas? I don't know.
That's completely up to you. Are you is Instagram your social media of choice, or is there another channel that you prefer?
Yeah, definitely Instagram is my go-to, I'd say. Twitter, yeah. I just tend to just look out for football updates nowadays.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. So stalking. I'm not too sure I do a great deal of stalking. I just steal ideas, like I said.
Okay.
Don Robinson. I was stalking Don Robinson because he posted a thing earlier of he's also kind of got himself super fit and ripped. So I was thinking, I need to get myself into shape. So the post he put up about that. But
okay, so stalking Don Robinson's six pack.
Yeah, this is all gone a bit weird now, isn't it?
I know everyone questioning as well.
The only thing I do is Instagram is for stealing ideas. Guys.
Stephen, what about you? Are you a prolific Instagram stalker?
Yeah, I love Instagram just because, like Steve said, it's really visual. You can literally just flick through. It's almost like like a mood board. Sometimes, you know, like you could just get ideas from different chefs, or you see something that's just come into season, and you're like, why don't I have that on the menu? You know, and I think it's great. I almost think like, how did we survive before that? We'd actually have to think of ideas for ourselves, probably. But my last kind of like follow was like Solar, a restaurant in London, like an American style restaurant with a Michelin star. It was Andy Lines that I think posted a review of all these like beautiful dishes, and I was just interested. It was just crazy that I hadn't come across it before, and that's what I love about the industry and social media, that you can just find those little hidden gems.
Yeah.
Everyone's probably like, oh yeah, I've been following them for years, but I've literally just followed them.
I followed that exact same path the other day, actually. Andy Lyons posted about that. I was checking them out because I hadn't really.
I'm not the only one. That's good.
Both out of touch.
Right, Stephen, do you think aliens exist?
Yeah, 100%. I'm a believer, not a believer. No, I think alien, like, obviously not like the big head, like funny eyes and stuff. I do think there's like life outside of Earth. Like, to answer your question, like I think we're like a small drop in the ocean when it comes to the universe, and yeah, I've always believed we're not alone.
Okay, Steve's looking at us like, where are we going here? Are you an alien believer or?
No, not at all.
No.
I don't know. I just kind of think if there was, there'd be some hard evidence of it now.
I'm not saying that we've seen. You know, like people have discovered them. I just think that there are some out there.
Right. Most romantic thing that you've ever done, Steve?
I proposed to my wife on a ski slope. So I came swooshing down the ski slope, came to a beautiful stop in front of her, down on one knee, proposed, beautiful views of the mountains. It was my first skiing trip, so maybe it wasn't quite as gracious as that, but I snowplowed towards her and avoided knocking her off the edge of a cliff.
What are you doing? That is very romantic. I think that's romantic. Yeah, well, I think that is.
So yes.
Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, Steve nicked my idea. I was going to say my proposal to my wife. I thought it was pretty romantic. Obviously, nothing to do with skiing, which I'm a bit annoyed about now. But it was on my parents' 25th wedding anniversary, so I kind of just jumped on their bandwagon. I gave a nice speech about how they inspired me, and then completely surprised Laura with the proposal.
Stole their thunder.
Yeah.
Did you show any emotion though? That's what we want to know.
I was thinking more about that emotion. There was like a quote I saw. I was going to send it to you, Cara. It's just like about. I think it was like a music art, like a musician that was saying that they struggle with like emotion because they put all of it into their music. You know, like they're like breaking down and crying. They're almost like building it up to be able to have in like some sort of art form. And I was thinking maybe that's a bit like me and Steve with our food. We're just building up our emotions.
So all the emotions come out in the food, just leaves us cold.
Where are you not welcome anymore?
Hopefully I'm welcome everywhere. I'm just trying to think, like, if I've done something to piss someone off or annoy them.
I don't reckon you're welcome at the office that deals with parking tickets.
That's true. Yeah, we could go with that one. I wouldn't go there anyway.
I love that. I wouldn't want to go anyway.
Sounds like a rubbish day out. That.
Yeah.
Steve, anyway, you're not welcome anymore?
I don't think so. Generally quite well-mannered and don't seem to annoy too many people.
You're both welcome everywhere then.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Let's see if anyone comments on that when you put this
out.
Yeah,
you'll find out.
That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah. I'll put that little edit onto social and say, is there anywhere that these two aren't welcome? Please let us know.
Well, I did do a dinner party in someone's house. That's quite a few years ago now. But
it's all coming out now.
Yeah, as I was packing up, I accidentally smashed one of their very expensive wine glasses. They weren't very happy, so maybe I wouldn't be welcome there again.
No.
And overcooked their lamb as well. I put a timer on the oven for what I thought was 10 minutes. But it was an hour and 10 minutes. It didn't stay in there for an hour and 10 minutes, but it stayed in there longer than it should have. So the lamb was quite overcooked.
Yeah, I feel like they may never invite you back.
Yeah, it didn't go so well. But it's a difficult thing as well when you're cooking in someone else's house. It's not like when you're in a kitchen where you just kind of recook it, get another portion out or another 10 portions out.
Yeah.
But you're in someone's house, it's all you've got. So you kind of have to serve it or you're serving nothing. So I did that and then had to invite them to the restaurant on me. So yeah.
I guess it's similar to Masterchef in a sense where you are using like a domestic cooker basically, and you've got to get used to the appliance as quick as possible. Otherwise, you might overcook something. But one of the funniest, or not funny stories, but like I cooked for someone in like a beautiful apartment in central London, and it must have cost millions, but the kitchen was tiny. Like, because I'm always like, well, if they've invited 10 people around for dinner, they're going to have like a space to cook for 10 people. And first of all, it was like on the 5th floor, so I had to lug all the dinner party stuff up 5 flights of stairs. And then when I got up there, it's literally just like a small cooker top and a microwave. I'm like, how do you do cooking? And he's just like, oh, I just normally order like takeaway. In the microwave was a Domino's pizza, just left there, like God knows when.
Lovely.
I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. But I was able to do something. I don't know what, but I survived.
Right, last question. Have you ever done anything to try and be more cool than you actually are?
Yeah, all the time. I'm always trying to be cooler than I am. Like, but the funny story was when I went to Chelsea on holiday with the family a couple of years ago, and I was trying to impress my son. He went to a skate park, and
oh God,
I've never been able to skateboard or anything like that before. But I thought, how hard can it be? So I was like, just getting my confidence up on the skateboards, and I completely stacked it, and like landed on the phone in my pocket, and my whole leg like was a big black bruise. But I just had to kind of like style it out. Kind of got and Kyle was like, "Are you going to cry, Daddy?" That would have shown emotion. So I was like, "No." And I haven't been on a skateboard since. I'm scared of them now.
Does it put you off?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't think I just thought if you fall off a skateboard, it's not going to hurt. Maybe it's because I'm getting old, or not hurt as much. I mean, that was like really painful. At first, I thought I actually broke my leg.
Oh God. I always think though, as an adult, when you try and do things that you did as a kid, they're way harder to do, and you don't fall the same as when you're a kid at all.
You seem to bounce when you're a kid.
Yeah. Steve, what about you? Any skateboard injuries or?
It's a pro skier.
Yeah, similar to Stephen actually is always trying to be a bit cooler than I am because not naturally the coolest person. It's like wearing this hoodie. Look a bit cooler than normal, But no, also again, going back to the skiing thing, trying to go down I don't know, a red run. Red runs are the harder ones, right? I'm not a skier.
I've never been skiing in my life, but I need to do it.
Tried to go down a pretty steep run. Couldn't do that. I ended up going down on my backside the whole way down because I couldn't get the ski back on because I fell over, and it was just, that was a nightmare. And then also, again, similar to Steve's, my daughter's started gymnastics recently. She's quite good at it. So
okay.
I used to be quite good at doing like a forward flip. And I tried to show her that. I landed pretty heavily. The massive thud.
Oh.
Yeah. Movement was a little bit limited.
Hopefully you haven't put her off gymnastics.
No, she's still good at it. My son's just started as well, but he's kind of similar sort of ability to me, I think.
I hope someone was recording it actually.
No, normally listen, my wife would be on that, but she'd be laughing, I think.
Got away with it. Right. Steve, tell us one thing about your MasterChef experience that people don't know. Because you have we've had the conversations of what you get asked all the time and how certain things are about it. But is there a story that is just yours that no one else that wasn't on the telly, or that's something that you experienced?
Everyone obviously got the similar kind of stories of when you're waiting around, and I've never seen a group of people need to go to the loo so often. You sat there in the waiting room ready to kind of go in. It's proper nerve-wracking, that first bit. But I mean, I remember one of the tasks at Etch, we had to go there and cook afternoon tea. I think it was for Eric Lanyard and Michel Roux Jr. And I had to do choux buns. I think I made them about 5 times because I kept ruining the choux pastry. And every time I went to put them in the bin, they'd just miss it. The cameras would come over and be like, "Oh, can you just put that in the bin again?" It's like, absolutely not. No. I'm going to leave that to my failure so you can catch it. You're not getting it at all. So yeah, I made them quite a few times and I thought I'd actually nailed it. And I still remember Michel Roux Sr. when my afternoon tea went down in front of him, picked up my choux bun and he was like, "Ha ha, it's a choux for 2." Yeah, very demoralising.
I mean, I was just always really conscious not to run anywhere because I know they love. I love filming that. I mean, there's lots of thing. I mean, the way I write the menus at Etch, I think I spoke about it. I just commit to 2 words, and that's probably down to MasterChef because you have to commit to the dishes before you actually, if you're doing your showstopper rounds, you have to commit to it. And I think whenever I did a sorbet, it would never work in their little ice cream machine. So I soon learned that. But what I was going to say is when I did a chocolate fondant for my showstopper round, which everyone, when I told them that's what I was going to do, they're like, "Oh, you're going to go out. You're never going to go through on that." So I basically made 12 chocolate fondants and then was testing them in the oven as I was making other things. Because like we said earlier with the home ovens, they're not the same as what you've been practicing in at work. And luckily for me, I got down to my last 3 chocolate fondants and had a time that was just over and one that was just under. Sounds like Goldilocks with a porridge, but I got it just right on the last one.
When it was in one of the first rounds, we were cooking rabbit. And I think because they go around, the judges go around, don't they, and kind of interview everybody about what they're going to cook. So I'd already kind of decided what I was going to cook, but then as they were going around, someone else was talking about what they were going to do with the offal, and Michel Roux got really excited and was like, "Oh, that's brilliant that you're using the offal." So it's like, right, quickly change my dish, incorporate all the offal into that. So I kind of stole the guy's idea.
You're holding your hands up to a lot of idea stealing today, Steve.
Yeah, painting a bad picture of myself now.
Inspirational. That's what we're sticking to. So how has the show changed since you won, Steve? Because it's been it's probably gone through quite a lot of different changes to what you experienced. And do you get time to watch it now or not so much?
I still watch bits of it. I kind of dip in and out.
Yeah.
Don't really watch the whole thing. I think in the way it's changed, it's obviously a lot bigger now than it was. I did it in kind of series 2. I think the first series was on BBC 2, kind of quite early in the afternoon. And then it was on my one, it kind of went up to prime time, but it was still on BBC 2. And then obviously since then it's on BBC 1. So it's a lot bigger now. I think, I don't know, when I did it, the kind of main motivator for me was to make contact with Michel Roux Jr. and kind of go and work for him, really. Obviously, maybe it's a bit of a strange way about getting a job, but the kind of, I don't know, it just seemed to make sense to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas now I kind of think it gives everyone a lot more exposure. So I don't know whether for a lot of people, the motivation is still to kind of really enhance their career or kind of take it in a completely different direction.
And do you think the audience or the judges are looking for something different in their winners now to what they were maybe like 10 years ago?
I don't know. I think now you've probably got to do more to kind of stand out, because there's obviously been so much that's gone before from within that show that you've got to do more to be different. So yeah, I guess they kind of have to look for more in that sense.
And how does it compare? How does winning Masterchef compare to winning National Chef of the Year?
I think they're different, and I did both of them for different reasons. Like I said, that MasterChef one was about making contacts in Michel Roux, and obviously the competition is different in the sense that it's building your profile with the general public, whereas National Chef of the Year for me was the kind of the best kind of professional based competition.
Yeah.
And it was the one that I kind of wanted to do for a long time, kind of for industry respect.
I think the biggest change I've seen is like the diversity of food. I think when MasterChef first started for the professionals, it was like very like French based, or it seemed to be like more French based. Steve might be able to answer that question, like that part better than me. But now it's like, you know, like Santosh last year, who did really, really well. You know, he was doing a different style of food, but still progressing in the competition. It seemed to be like when someone had a different style of food earlier on, that they would go out quite early, because I guess it's like harder to judge, or it's not what the judges were looking for.
Obviously, we were both judged by Michel Roux Jr, right? So how was that? I've spoken to Stephen about this, obviously, because we've had a few guests on that were with Marcus. So how is that for you, Steve? Obviously, you said you wanted to do MasterChef because you wanted to get his attention. So how was it actually taking part in it and having him judge your food? Initially,
it was kind of really nerve-wracking. It was we had to do the skills test just for Monica initially, so you had to do that just to earn the right to kind of cook for Michelle.
Okay.
So and obviously that builds it up a little bit more as well, I think. So then when you do actually come to cook for Michelle, you're obviously very nervous about it, and I think once you get through a couple of rounds and you kind of start to see him as more human than kind of you kind of maybe thought about him previously,
yeah,
then you kind of relax into it a little bit more. You can just kind of focus on cooking. I mean, I did quite a lot of research into what he liked and what he didn't like before I went on the show.
Okay.
I didn't want to kind of stitch myself up just by doing too many foams or espumas or anything like that if I knew he didn't like it. So I thought it just made sense to kind of have an understanding of what he kind of values were.
Yeah, and for remind people what your skills test was, what you did.
So the skills test I had to do was prepare 2 squid and then cook one with sauce vierge, which is fine. It's quite straightforward, but it's fine if you know what sauce vierge is. And it's the same with all these skills tests, isn't it? I think, you know, they're really diverse now as well. If you know what it is, it's fine. If you don't, then obviously you've got to rely on a bit of chef's instincts just to kind of wing your way through it.
So when you got that, were you like, okay, that's fine, I can deal with that? Or do you still automatically kind of, we've talked about going a bit blank just when you're under pressure? So
I mean, I knew what sauce vierge was, so I knew I could make something that was kind of pretty much what they were looking for. It's just little mistakes you make, because we only had 10 minutes, I think. So just peeling a shallot, you're kind of there with your hands shaking. Everything just takes a little bit longer. I think the thing is, on those skills tests, so much of it comes down to tasting. And I think that's one thing that so many people forget to do, is taste the food. Because ultimately, if you put something up that's not perfect, but it tastes good, then they can see what you're all about.
Is that nerves, that the tasting side of it? Or they're just forgetting to do simple things?
I think so. It is a nerve-wracking experience, because you're walking into a studio and you're not just walking into kind of the judges at the end of the table. You're walking into a studio with probably about 30 people watching you. You've got kind of runners, producers, cameramen, sound guys. They're all in there. So you're walking in there alone. So it's a pretty daunting experience. So I think people are just gonna screw up on the simpler things that they normally wouldn't think twice about.
I think what Steve was saying earlier as well, I could relate to is doing food that I thought would impress Michel Roux. You know, straight away I was like, I didn't want to do water bath cookery or anything like you said with a foam or anything a bit too modern. I wanted to concentrate on those classic techniques, and because the skills test I think worries everyone. So even before going on the show, I was like just trying to brush up on my techniques, or like the words, like Steve said about the sauce vierge. It's only good if you know it. So yeah, I tried to do as much revision as possible on the sort of classics.
Do you think people do that now? Do you think they look at Marcus or Monica and think, oh, I need to know what they like before I get into this competition, or do you think they just want to do what they do?
Well, yeah, I think Steve touched on it as well. Different people have a different outlook on what they want to get from the competition. Like for me, I saw it as a competition and I wanted to win it. But you know, you can still do well and get into the final, but showcase your food style. I think we see it on like Great British Menu and stuff as well, where they don't necessarily listen to the brief, but they've got this audience that are looking at what they do. So you can be quite clever with it. But for me, it was all about winning. Obviously,
Steve went on to work with Michel Roux Jr. At Roux at Parliament Square. What are the Roux like? I've had a few good chats with them. They're really good fun, aren't they? So for people who don't know them, what are they like?
Working for Michel Roux Jr., he's very much on TV as the way he is in real life. He's he'll let you know if something's not right. And I think you want to do well for him because you've got so much respect. So he doesn't need to get kind of aggressive and angry and all the rest of it to kind of make you feel bad about messing something up. Because it's just got that kind of level of respect. And obviously working with Albert as well was a fantastic opportunity, and obviously really sad that we lost him earlier in the year. But you know, to have had the opportunities with both of them quite closely, and they're just really encouraging, really help you kind of develop, and a lot of fun as well. I think, you know, had some great times.
Yeah, you must have some good Roux stories. What's your favourite Roux story?
Albert's dog Canaloo was always a good source of a story, and he always used to take the trimmings of a thing home, or if he didn't eat his entire meal, he'd take it home in a doggy bag for the dog. So actually, when Albert came to our house for lunch, just for a Sunday lunch one weekend, and he brought the dog down. And before that, because we live just around the corner from where Albert used to live, he'd managed to end up about an hour away because he got lost on the way down. So I had Sunday lunch ready for Albert Roux, sat there on the side in the kitchen at home, deteriorating while he found his way here, when he should really have known the way quite well. And then he turned up with the dog, Canaloo. We opened the front door and the dog was massive. Obviously, all these kind of luxury fine dining meals it had been, and then it packed on the pounds. So it came bowling in the house and nearly knocked me over as it kind of jumped up at me. But no, it's all great memories of working with those guys.
That must be quite a surreal moment, cooking Sunday dinner in your house for Albert Roux.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, when I first went to work at Parliament Square, I could never have imagined that to be the case. But no, it was it's great. And I think one thing that the Roux family are really good at is kind of really making the kind of wider Roux family, as they kind of would call it, feel like part of the family. I think that's how you see them. There's a lot of love for those people, and you know, all those kind of years working together. I think you know, it's been a great experience. I'm really lucky to have had that.
For me, Steve summed it up perfectly. He's exactly how he is on the TV, and he's such a loving, generous man. And you know, it was just nice to be able to go through that process and be the last winner with him as the head judge.
Steve, do you like doing TV?
I don't know. It's very different. I find it very tiring. Like it's, I guess it's the stress of it potentially that just kind of makes you feel more tired. I remember doing Masterchef and feeling more tired after doing a kind of a shorter day of doing that than you would after doing an 18-hour day in a restaurant.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, it very much depends on what it is as well. If I'm there doing something that I'm kind of comfortable with, then yeah, I find I can kind of block out the fact that there's cameras and things there. I find that someone sticks a camera in my face tends to talk a lot of gibberish though.
Find out when I listen back. And what about the getting recognised as the winner of MasterChef? We've touched on this with a few of our other guests. Is that something that happened to you after winning MasterChef, or did you not notice that so much? I mean, now obviously social media and everything heightens the whole thing, and there's probably millions and millions of people who might not have watched the programme but will see you on social. So how is it for you?
I think it's as a chef, you're kind of used to being in the background, being kind of tucked away in the kitchen. I think at the time I was working at Launceston Place, and we'd be in there from kind of 7, 8 in the morning, getting home at kind of 1, half 1. So you'd be kind of traveling to work at traveling home from work certainly at kind of quiet times. So you kind of very much go under the radar. And then obviously once MasterChef started coming out on TV, you then start to realise how big it is, because you do get people coming up to you in the street, on the tube, on the night bus, and just kind of talking to you. And it is really surreal. And actually, I really struggled to deal with it initially, because I think, like I said, you're used to just going about things and just getting on with things and no one really noticing you.
Yeah.
Then for people to kind of be coming up to you and like, you always kind of feel like people are watching you.
Yeah.
I think, I found that really surreal to begin with.
It's not the norm, is it? That's why. It's very strange.
No, it's not. It's not normal at all.
Anyone that you remember coming up to you, one of maybe like a funny story or a strange story of someone coming up to you? We've had some interesting ones.
I remember actually there's a couple of times when I think it's Elisha Carter, the chef. I'd come out of McDonald's after a night out. I shouldn't admit it, but I know Stephen loves McDonald's. He was telling me about that a little while ago. But I came out of McDonald's and he was there, the chef, and he was just like, "Oh, you shouldn't be eating that." I was like, "What? Where did you come from?" And then it's probably about 3 months later, I got off a train. I was still in my chef jacket because I had to run away. Oh, not run away. I had to dash out of an event. I still have my chef's jacket on. I was on the train. I just got off the train about an hour out of London. And he was there as I stepped off the train. He was like, "Now time to get changed, chef." It was just really bizarre that I'd seen this guy like twice in 3 months, having never really seen him before. And he'd been pulling me up on not getting changed and eating bad food. Well, that is downside actually to winning MasterChef, is when you do get recognised, you make any poor food choices, there's always someone there to point it out to you.
I mean, I was going to share like a funny story that happened yesterday, because I don't know if it's the same with you, Steve, but my wife, she thinks it's hilarious that when people recognise me, because she's just like, "Look, you're old news. You won 2013." So we always have this like running joke. I'm like, "I think they recognise me," and she's like, "They don't care about you." And I took the family to Richmond for a day. It was a lovely day yesterday, so I went around Richmond Park and then went back to the River House, so I have a restaurant down on the river. And there was a guy in there on his phone, but he kept looking at me, and he came over and was like, "You're Stephen Edwards, aren't you?" I was like, "Yeah," and right in front of Laura, and she's like, "For goodness sake." And so I obviously spoke to him, everything was good, and on the way home she was like, "It doesn't count. You were in the restaurant together, your restaurant, your restaurant." And I was like, "Yeah, but it was my day off." It's just the funny, I think the worst stage, I think I've said it earlier in the podcast, is like that in between, because you get people looking at you and then you're like, you can just feel eyes on you, and it does feel uncomfortable.
score
think
for
I'm
me.
firmly back to being anonymous now, so I'm all right.
Yeah, no, I feel the same as well. I mean, it's better being anonymous than being in that in-between stage of like they recognise you, but they don't know where from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was.
Well, you've been on EastEnders.
Yeah.
So, would you do more TV, or are you done?
It would very much depend on what it was.
Yeah.
If I thought it would be good, beneficial, then I'd do it.
Okay.
I'd be more selective now than perhaps I would have been 10 years ago.
We touched on skills tests, and I have asked everybody this. What skills test would you set, and why, if it was up to you?
I probably would go something classical. I think I like those kind of classical skills tests. I think, and probably a lot of people struggle with pastry, don't they? So, I don't know, a creme anglaise without any kind of recipe or kind of any kind of guiding factors, with some kind of, I don't know, a quick simple sponge or something like that.
Okay.
Keep it really quite basic, but just see how people get on without any kind of recipe or too heavy a clues, not having everything weighed out or anything like that.
How do you think they'd get on?
I don't know. Obviously, the people that have got good experience would probably be fine, but I think I think what we've ended up with over the years is something where you get a lot of chefs that have kind of elevated themselves really quickly, and I think it's partly down to the fact that there's so much information about now that you can actually learn to cook to a pretty decent level just off of looking through the internet, going through YouTube or whatever. But what I like to see the chefs coming through our kitchens is that real kind of understanding of classic technique, and just having those real solid foundations. Because I think a lot of people just jump to the really modern molecular stuff without actually kind of getting those kind of underpinning skills, which I think are really important.
I like to look at the way they work. You know, I'm a real big believer is that if someone comes in and they're like organised, they're very meticulous, and like the speed of how they work, like the efficiency, because I think the rest can be taught, as long as they've got a good attitude and a willingness to learn. That goes a long way with me. But I do agree with Steve. I think having knowledge of the classics, or having knowledge of the basics of like how to cook the building blocks is essential. I mean, I was just thinking there, I know I answer it every week, but I'd like to see a cup of tea round, you know, where they just make a cup of tea, because I think it's one of those things where everyone makes it differently, but it could just be like a nice fun round in the middle of the show. I wouldn't want to send someone home for it, but it'd just be interesting to see how they make that cup of tea.
A cup of tea and toast. I feel like toast is also another.
Yeah, but you say it's something simple like that, but there's so many, you know, it's the same with a recipe. You give everyone a recipe, they will come up with something different. And it's like you said, cooking toast, I think that could add an element of pressure. How dark do you go? How do you know?
Well, it's very subjective, that one, I reckon. Each to their own, isn't it, when it comes to tea and toast? So.
Keep sliced white or sourdough or
there you go. I was just thinking a cup of tea. If someone's gave up a milky cup of tea, I think they'd have to go. They'd have to leave.
That's where they like it. That could be their perfect cup of tea. That could be like...
What if they leave the bag in? Are they in trouble then?
Yeah, I think so. This is what I'm working with Matt Gillen. He has his tea a certain way. He's very meticulous. Lewis as well at South Lodge. It's a good test for them. They get one of the commie chefs to make them a cup of tea, and it's part of that learning process.
Very specific.
Very specific.
Okay, what are we talking?
Like the way it's served in a cup and a saucer, because you've got to bring it through the kitchen as well. So it's like getting it to them without it being like what they call like earthquake proof. You know, where it's like the colour as well, dark, like builder's tea.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be. It's probably a northern thing as well, isn't it? Lewis is from Bolton.
Oh, okay. I don't really drink tea. I'm a coffee drinker. No.
Coffee's taken over now, isn't it?
Yeah, it has. Anyway, we digress. I've got some questions from the audience, if that's all right with you two. Just a couple from Instagram. First one is from a guest who is coming up, actually, is Anton, Petrosky?
Yeah.
I may be saying that correctly or wrongly, I don't know. Do you eat pot noodles in your underpants after service? I don't know who that's to, so either of you.
I don't. I don't normally hate things, but I actually don't like pot noodles.
Do you not?
We've got a sous chef at the moment at Etch who loves them, and I find it hilarious, but he's got one of those things on Amazon where you can set it to order pot noodles.
Subscribe to pot noodles.
Yeah, he's subscribed to pot noodles, and he's in a bit of a problem at the moment because we've been working so hard at the restaurant. He's got about 50 pot noodles at home, and he hasn't had a chance to cancel the order. But I'm a pot noodle hater, I'm afraid.
I'm not a pot noodle hater. I didn't, to be honest, I hadn't eaten them for years. I had one probably about a year ago. It was all right. It was. I didn't feel the urge to get down to my underpants and.
Yeah, I thought that was very specific.
I think Anton's given a glimpse into his own personal
exactly.
routine.
Each to their own. From the calabash tree, what's more nerve-wracking, the skills test or cooking for the chef's table?
For me, I'd say the skills test, just because it's the first thing. I think once you get to the chef's table, you're kind of relaxed into it a little bit.
Okay.
100% agree. Skills test is horrible.
I suppose by you get to that point, that you've relaxed into the whole experience maybe a bit more.
The judges are more supportive at that later stage as well. They're not looking for glaring errors. I think on the skills test, they're going through everything with a fine tooth comb.
With your one I can't remember, because on our one, someone went out after the skills test as well. I know they don't go out after the skills test anymore.
No, our one, it was attached to another test. I think it was the skills attached to the classic dish round. So for us, it was a skills test, and then Michel Roux would, it was like a recipe, I think, or you had to cook, Michel, a classic dish.
Yeah.
But you've got to be,
as well.
Because you can still mess up. You should still be able to mess up the skills test and have a chance to redeem yourself.
Yeah, I think that's why they changed it. I think I'm pretty sure on our one that someone went out after the skills test and then you went through to cook for Michelle.
Final question, Matt Wilby. You've mentioned that obviously guest chef nights and having guest chefs at your place, and have you ever yourself or any of your guest chefs ever been so in the shit that you've had to go rogue, which I think he means as in you've had to wing it basically because you couldn't get out of the shit that you're in?
I had to serve someone overcooked lamb once. I don't know if we mentioned it. I went to college with Matt Wilby, actually.
Did you?
Yeah. So, yeah, he'll probably always remember as well at catering college trying to make creme pat. Maybe this should be a skills test, and just burning the crap out of it, thinking, I'm doing this really well. And then obviously you start to get all these kind of like brown flecks through the it just tastes a bit smoky, and
just pass it off. I feel like I've been in those situations with guest chef nights or with me personally not being ready, but I think that just makes you more organised. Like now, like Steve's done a guest chef with us. He's super organised when he comes in. Everything's done. You want the day to be enjoyable. You don't want to be running around chasing your tail. Have I got like a funny story? I mean, I don't want to call anyone out, but there's been a couple of guest chef nights where I'm thinking we're not going to be able to send any food out unless we like throw everything at it. And I really hate those situations because, like I said, you want it to be enjoyable. You want it to be a fun day, and you just want to kind of just schmooze the guests when they come in the evening and have fun.
Masterchef starts this evening. How will those people be feeling about seeing themselves on telly, because you've obviously been through this, and also if you're the winner you have to keep that to yourself for a really long time, don't you? So how will they be feeling that now it's finally going onto the telly and it's kind of the build up now?
I think they'll be excited, especially if they've done well. Obviously if they've had an absolute mare in the skills test or early rounds, they're probably absolutely dreading it. So yeah, probably a mixed bag. I hated watching myself back, but
did you?
I think that's just thing a lot of people kind of feel. But yeah, I imagine, like I say, excited if they've done well, less so if they haven't.
Do you know what I noticed during the when it went live is that my phone would go mental just on like Facebook or text messages or anything like from family and friends or even people I hadn't heard of for like the last 10 years. It'd just be like, oh my God, you on telly tonight? Or we saw you walking around the corner. And then the days I wasn't on the show, nothing. Do you know what I mean? Because let's say like tonight you'll be on like for like the first round. And I think, I don't know, they mix it up each year. But for me, it was like one night, I wasn't on like 4 consecutive nights until it got to the final. So it'd just be like my phone would go mental and then nothing the next day and then mental again. It just shows like how fickle TV is. And also like people do love, you know, seeing someone they know on TV.
Is it hard to keep it to yourself that you've won? Is it a bit strange knowing that you've won and then having to wait all that time to actually go like, yay, I'm the winner?
For me, no one really asked until it got further in the competition. And
right.
Then I was just like, well, you find out. And then it gets to the final. And in the end, so many people were asking me, I just told them I didn't win, but to keep it quiet because I was really upset. So I was just like, look, I didn't win. But it just got them off my case because everyone just wants to know. They're like, you must know, you know, you're going out, drink, you know, it's in December that it's aired. So you're going out for Christmas drinks thinking, don't have too much and don't spill the beans.
Don't be in McDonald's. Telling everybody that you're the Masterchef winner.
The lady, the producer of it, I want to say, is it Amanda Ross or someone like that? She gave, is it Karen Ross?
Yeah.
Oh, she's going to kill me now for getting her name wrong. She's actually really scary, and she basically like threatened us like with like, she's like, your careers will not be worth like living if this gets out.
I think with mine actually there were some whispers because my boss at the time I think had mentioned it to someone else because I told him, and he'd mentioned it somewhere else on another TV show. But I think a lot of the kind of camera guys and sound guys kind of freelance, don't they? So they're kind of working across these different shows. So I received a bottle of wine in the post from Karen, and had a little note just reiterating that I shouldn't mention it to anyone quite forcefully.
It wasn't a horse's head.
No, exactly. Next time might have been, but yeah.
Final question. Away from MasterChef, for people that don't know what you're up to at the minute, Steve, what are you up to at the minute? What's on the cards for you over the next 12 months?
So I am at Glyndebourne now, so Opera House in the beautiful Sussex countryside, which is great. It's a really different challenge, obviously very different to Parliament Square. So we've got 3 restaurants on site, plus we cater picnics and the rest of it, but it's very seasonal. So we've just come out of my first season there. So now a lot of it is planning for next year and making sure that we kind of really hit the ground running next year. And I think next year will be the year where I can really make more of an impact, because this year was more about seeing how the operation works, and because logistically it's quite challenging because we cook for everybody in the long interval from the opera. So you have an hour and a half to kind of to feed everybody, and when there's a full capacity, you're looking at about 700 covers within that hour and a half time frame. So it's it's a big challenge in that sense, but it's making sure that we deliver it to a really high standard, because Glyndebourne is world-class opera, so we want to make sure that the food there is kind of really up there with it.
I didn't realise there was such a long break in like an hour and a half. I know it's probably not long for you guys.
We want to have longer if possible. That'd be great.
Never realised that. What was it like? Obviously going somewhere after Parliament Square, because you were there for a long time.
Yeah, so I was at Parliament Square for 10 years, so it's obviously a big part of my life. And I always kind of because a lot of people would always ask, like, oh, how long are you going to stay there for? And I always kind of felt that there was kind of room to grow. There was always things I wanted to achieve. So for that, obviously, to come to an end because of COVID was obviously massively disappointing. But for me, it was about finding something next that excited me. And I think there's a lot of kind of opportunities that came up, but I wanted to try something different. And I wanted it to be somewhere where people will still go in for a real experience, and a sense of occasion. So that's why kind of Glyndebourne appealed to me. And also it's still within Restaurant Associates who ran Parliament Square. So that kind of continuity, I thought, was something that I wanted.
Yeah, but clearly enjoying a new challenge, though.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, it is completely different, but like I say, it tests you in different ways. So I think that's good. I always kind of like a challenge, hence all the competitions.
Yes. Well, as I said, MasterChef is back on our screens now. I mean, I really hope that there is a cup of tea and toast round, Stephen. Imagine.
I keep saying, I think they should listen just to get some good ideas. I think
Yeah.
even if it's a small one, just to put the guys at ease.
Right, thank you both so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'll let you both go, and I will speak to you. Well, Stephen, I'll speak to you tomorrow. You've got a double dose of me this week, but yeah, I'll speak to you for the next episode. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. It was really good fun, and thank you for doing our wheel of truth and being so honest.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. All right, thank you both. Speak to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.